Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our MLB DFS hitter picks for Monday, April 24th, 2017. I am your host, as always, Nick Valinchek, better known as Nick from CWE on all of your favorite daily fantasy sites. And I'm here to break down my top 3 favorite hitting options for Monday. It's going to be an interesting slate. I think that the overall strategy is going to be to attack Coors, because not only do you get Tyler Anderson on the mound, who's just not been good, but the Nationals are being forced to start Jacob Turner, it looks like, from AAA. What stands out is that in his 323 big league innings, he's allowed a 5.09 ERA and a 151 WHIP. This is not the proper type of statistics that works at Coors. No type of statistic works at Coors, so it's going to be imperative. And while typically I don't love the idea of always putting a Coors play in, there's one bat I really love from this game, and we'll get to that shortly. Let's start off with Chris Hermann, 2,200 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DraftKings. Hermann kind of seems to be a really out of left field type option to start out with, but I really like his price on FanDuel tonight, especially since we're looking for some salary options to relieve us so that we can get these Coors bats in our game, in our lineups. Hermann, a good hitter, and he's been this way basically since he's come to Arizona. I think he's going to see a little more opportunity this year with Wellington Castillo now in Baltimore. We've got Jules Chayson on the mound. He struggles more than anything else with left-handed bats. He's a weird pitcher in terms of what he is capable of, I guess. In 4 games this year, he's looked both really good and really bad, and that pretty much describes how I remember him between the Angels and the Braves, I think, last year, is that I used him in some situations when I was pressed into having no pitching on the slate, and he worked out fine, and then other times he was just an absolute gas can. So it's tough to say what we're going to get. But I do think that with this being in a poor pitching atmosphere in Arizona at Chase Field, that he should be a guy that we want to pick on tonight. I don't mind having some exposure to Chris Hermann. Next up, let's go to Texas, because Texas is often the forgotten stadium, as it is, because when you have both Coors and Chase Field on the slate, I think people will gravitate towards that. I do not hate having exposure to the Rangers tonight. Rangers taking on the Twins. Phil Hughes on the mound, and thus far, Phil Hughes is doing Phil Hughes things, allowing a 407 WOBA, 60.9% pull rate, and what I would describe as an absurd and definitely due for regression, 60.9 hard hit rate against lefties. Nonetheless, we know from times past that Phil Hughes is a guy that we can pick on pretty regularly, and with this being in another good hitting situation, hard for me to not want some exposure to Rougned or Odor. 3,200, that price tag on FanDuel, just really tempting where it's at. 4,700 on DraftKings, really a tough sell because of what's going on in Coors, but I don't hate it as a pivot, because if Coors busts, so will many of the lineups, and you'll be ahead. So don't mind some Rougned Odor tonight. Finally, my top hitter on the slate is a guy that maybe twice, 3 times this year will fall into the position if lucky, and that's Jayson Werth, 3,600 on FanDuel, 5K on DraftKings. To me, Werth is the first guy going into my lineups on FanDuel tonight, and the reason for that is that I am not a believer in Tyler Anderson. I'm not a believer at Tyler Anderson at home. He's got some pretty goofy splits to where he's just he just gets, I don't know the best word, I was going to say shackled, but that doesn't even make sense at all in any context for baseball. But he gets rocked hard at Coors. Not to mention, just in general, he's allowing a 3.35 WOBA, 37.2% fly ball, 43.2% pull rate, and a 40.9 hard hit rate at this point to righties. That's tough, man. These guys like Zimmerman and Werth are just killing the baseball right now, and Zimmerman has a long history of being a guy that you want to look to when he's up against a low to mid-tier to low lefty, and at Coors, Tyler Anderson could be below a low-tier lefty, and everything just lines up from a statistics perspective as to being a great play for Werth. I think when you're looking at things like Bryce Harper priced at 5,500 and 6,100 on DraftKings, it just makes sense to try to get some exposure to Werth because it's a better matchup and he could end up with a higher fantasy score on this day. So top 3 hitters today: Chris Hermann, Rougned, Odor, Jayson, Werth. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com, sign up for our MLB mailing list. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.